Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks, and what we have right here is the new Lumia 650. This is not our review device, but our friends from NTV, which is a German news television channel, they have been lucky enough and have been given a Lumia 650 2 or 3 days ago, and we're just hopping onto the train basically, and we will quickly unbox the Lumia 650 for you in this video. There's not much to see, I'll be honest with you. I'll show you the device and give you my first impressions. So let's just get started. So this is the Lumia 650's packaging. It's basically the same as all the new Lumia devices. It's a tad smaller, or it's much smaller actually, than the 950 and 950 XL boxes, because those have been huge, right? So here's the phone itself, and yeah, apart from the device, there is not that much else in the box. Let me just quickly get this out of here, because in Germany it obviously only ships with its power adapter. There's a bunch of product safety info, as you can see, and that is pretty much it. In a bunch of other countries, it will be shipping, including some headphones. Those should be the WH-108 headphones from Microsoft or Nokia, depending on what you decide to call it. So here we have the device itself. As you can see, it supports a glance screen, which means you can see the time and date and all that kind of stuff. Also, you get some small notification icons, and those are visible all the time. They're only using the pixels that are actually lit, because this is actually a Super AMOLED, or not in Super AMOLED. It's an AMOLED panel. It has the clear black technology, but I'll talk about that in a second. Let's turn the device on so you can have a look at the screen right there. It is a 5-inch panel. It only has an HD resolution, so it's 1280 by 720 pixels in this case. The viewing angles are definitely very decent, so there shouldn't be any problems watching stuff on here, even from the sides. There is special algorithms in here that will boost the brightness and adjust the contrast when you're outside and the sun is shining, so you will be able to read the screen outside. There is a Gorilla Glass 3 cover on the front, and there's also an oleophobic coating, so that should probably stay cleaner than many other devices depending on usage. If you look at the top right here, you can see the earpiece. On the right here is the 5-megapixel front-facing camera, and what you also can see is that the frame around the screen is actually pretty wide on this device. So there's like almost 5 millimeters on the left and the right of the screen. Also on top of the device, there is a lot of room towards the top. That's different on the bottom because you get the on-screen buttons, but they're probably just trying to make it look somehow symmetric with the on-screen buttons. But down here, the screen ends about here where my nail is right now. So there's a bit of room around the device, but you got to remember this is a device that is launching for just $200 in the US and 229 euros in Germany, for example. Let's take a look at the sides, because this is where the Lumia 650 is really special, because it's the first Windows 10 device from Microsoft with a metal frame. So they're using an aluminum frame that makes this possible, and it also makes the device very thin, because this is only 6.9 millimeters in thickness. The difference here is that this is not a full metal chassis in this case, but they're using a plastic back, which is the polycarbonate stuff that you know from the Lumia 950 and 950 XL. It doesn't feel as premium as it used to with the older Lumia devices from times of Nokia, basically, like the Lumia 730, for example. But it still feels pretty nice, actually. So it's not a bad look, and the metal frame definitely adds to it. The two buttons here are the power button and the volume rocker. They are not made of, or not drilled out of metal, I believe. They're a bit wobbly, but much more, feel much more comfortable and less wobbly than on the Lumia 950 models. If you take a quick look at the top, you can see that there is your headset jack, and because the frame is so thin and the device itself is so thin, they have actually made cutouts and put in these polycarbonate or plastic pieces to make the headphone jack fit there. That's the noise cancelling mic. There is pretty much nothing on the left, and if we go down to the bottom, you will see the micro USB 2.0 port down here. That is also inserted in one of these plastic spacers basically in the frame. That these are probably also dividing the two antennas or even more antennas on this device. What else is there? On the front, if you look at the bottom of the device, you will see the speaker down here. So that's your single mono speaker on the front of the Lumia 650. There is a bit of a downside to this speaker design because there is no grill or no other kind of cover on here. There will be some dust and other stuff accumulating in these holes. That also is the case with the top part right here where the earpiece is. You might want to make sure and clean this out regularly because this might dust up pretty quickly. If you look at the front right here, between the plastic around the frame, around the screen and the frame, and the glass cover on the front is a small gap. That is to take into account the fact that the metal might be stretching and contracting depending on what temperature you're using the device in. If we look around on the back, you can see there is the 8-megapixel camera. It definitely does a pretty good job. I'll take a bunch of sample photos and we'll put these in the post that's associated with this video. It should definitely give you pretty nice pictures for this price point, at least. Right next to that is your LED flash. That's just a single flash. And again, this polycarbonate cover. And if you look closely or if you listen, you should hear a small clicking sound, and that's because the cover doesn't fit so super accurately. So it might shift places depending on how much force you apply to the back right here. It just slides around a little on here. What else is there to say? Let's talk about the stuff that's under the hood here. We have the Snapdragon 212, which is the 1.3 gigahertz quad-core SoC from Qualcomm that does a pretty good job of running this device because it's running at 1.3 gigahertz. As I said, those 4 ARM Cortex-A7 cores are, yeah, well, they're doing okay, but not so great. There might be small stuttering, small cases where the UI stutters a bit or it takes a bit longer to actually load apps because it's definitely a low-end SoC that's in this device right now. But overall, it should give you a pretty decent performance. We have 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard flash storage, and you also have the chance of extending the storage on this device. So if you want to take off the back on the Lumia 650, you have this small hole or small gap right here in where the spacer for the headset or for the USB port is. And if you insert your finger right there, you should basically be able to just pop it off pretty much, and there you go. So here we have the 2000 milliamp hour battery that should give you a pretty decent runtime depending on usage, that's for sure. But in combination with the Snapdragon 212, it should definitely give you a pretty decent performance, and you should probably be able to make it through the day. Over here we have the micro SD card slot for storage extension. This is the nano SIM slot, and right next to that, in this case, this is a single SIM model, but there will be a dual SIM model available in Europe, and that's where the other SIM card will be applied. There's these two contacts right here. Those are for the NFC module because, as you can see on the cover here, there's just this NFC call integrated into the cover, and these connect to the device itself, so you can use NFC on the Lumia 650. So that's just been a very quick look at the Lumia 650, which kind of feels like a decently made device. At least it feels much more premium, or not much, but it feels a bit more premium than the Lumia 950 models that were a bit of a disappointment in this regard, or at least from the outside quality-wise.